JB here. We're doing outstanding Friday, August 29th, 9:07 a.m. Let's find morning talk. Really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures slightly in the red here this morning. PCE data in line, pretty much right in line with expectations. I haven't looked at everything. Trade and balance numbers came out too. Those are negative. I make sarcastic remarks, right? So my sarcasm is like, oh, PCE data is flat. That means 4 more weeks of headlines saying that the U.S. consumer is bearing the brunt of the tariffs, and maybe it does at some point, right? But it seems like we saw that in May, we saw that in June, we saw that in July. Headlines in August. Here we are, heading into September, last trading day of the month. Um, and then, once the tariff, the inflation hits, and maybe it's bigger than expectation, but you would think based on all the hype and everything that's been made about the tariffs, you would think they'd be substantial. We would have runaway inflation, and it hasn't been the case, right? So at some point, maybe we do towards the end of the year. I I'm still cautiously optimistic, right? That's how I continue to spin it until something changes, right? I mean, if obviously if we get that in September and things just go bonkers, then you can say, okay, all that talk around inventories, like all these retailers, I don't know where they store all the extra stuff, right? I mean, that's the big argument is that they all hoarded all this product ahead of the tariffs and now they're running out of product. Like, where'd they put it, right? I mean, don't you think that these companies, and you don't see it in their filings or their earnings, hoarded warehouse space ahead of time and then put it in there? It's just sitting there. All the things that go in my head, I'm like, oh man, it's just an easy argument to make um, on the tariffs, right? Because it makes sense, right? It does. It makes logical sense. Uncertainty. You're creating an environment where someone's going to have to pay, right? And whether it's the exporter, the importer, the end consumer, whatever, someone's going to have to pay. But rants for other days. So you take a look at the market. Yesterday we opened in the green, dipped to the red, and then boom, just melted higher for the rest of the day. A late end of day volume push. It closed right near the highs. S&P closed up to 20th record high for the year. The Dow has notched two all-time high closes, and then we're getting into Labor Day weekend, right? The negative part here is September is historically tricky month, right? September, October. But September, if you even just look at the data, it is the only true red month, down 7% on average. That's from 1964. Someone else had a post, I think, from all the way, you go down to like the 1920s, but then that's where the Dow components come more into play. But you take a look, it's a less than 50% chance that the S&P is going to close in the green next month. So if you flip a coin, the odds are you're probably, if you flip it 100 times, 54 of those times the market's going to close red. Not the worst odds, um, but considering where the market has rallied, where we've been, all the possible headwinds, what have you, you have to think it's going to be a little rocky. So we'll see how that all plays out. Not only that, so we have the jobs report. So next month is the Fed meeting, so we're going to get data before the Fed meeting. I think Fed meeting is 2.5 weeks. We have the jobs report on Friday, so that's going to be one of the biggest jobs report in recent memory. With everything else going on, if that's severely negative, that certainly could stir some things. Historically weak performance, and then it's kind of like a lull in regards to earnings seasons winding down. So certainly going to end folks get back, right? So there's going to be volumes are increasing. For now, so I talked about 628, 646 on the SPY. We're at 647 to change here today. If we break on the 646 at the open, maybe after 10 o'clock, that's where we bounced yesterday. I might look for some lotto puts here today. That's like a 20% probability, right? I give that a, hey, we're pushing the sell the news event from yesterday to today, the NVIDIA earnings, which would be the news I'm talking about. If not, I'll be open to spec lotto puts. I was staring at MDB, and I'll talk more about those later. Funny also, I didn't even mention that yesterday, weekly jobless claims came in better than expected. The second quarter, second revision on GDP up to 3.3 from 3.0. So all good stuff. All right. And then last but not least, some other things to note. Yields ticking lower, almost at multi-month lows, not seen since May. So that's a good sign there too. I was saying after Jackson Hole, it's like Fed Chair Powell doesn't have to even do anything, right? They might not even cut rates this September. He's just got to be able to talk the rates down. And I think that's the best case scenario. Be able to talk the rates down as opposed to cutting rates. But you would have to think they're going to cut rates in September. All right, now just quick on individual names. So yesterday's watch list, I was watching names for sympathy plays. I was looking at Broadcom. I was like, 310 maybe. It played for 310. The stock was like 301 at the over 302. Those calls were very expensive. So then I started looking at Arista Networks, which I had on the watch. It was kind of like sympathy play, but under the radar. And the thing is, the stock was gapping lower in the pre-market. It was down to like 129, and then boom, the market opened and it just started to spike. And I'm trying, open at like 129.70 or so. I'm trying to get some strikes, 136s, 137s, 138s, and boom, finally got the 139s. And then 10 minutes later, I was able to close some of those out for a little over 100% to cover costs. And then a reverse course, boom, 136 and change. Looked like it found some resistance. And then quickly under 134. Didn't want to see this be like the sell the news event that I was a little concerned about. Lock the rest of those calls in. Didn't want to lose all the profits. I might revisit it here today. If the market finds some footing, I think it trades north of 140. Look at the highs back after its earnings in August. So definitely a name I'll be watching again for possible opportunity. CGC, 6 straight days to the upside here. I don't know. There was no news I could see outside of rumors that there'd be some kind of update on the reclassifying marijuana, possibly. But you look up 24% over its 200-day moving average. Just all great signs over the the August levels, early August levels that it hit. I think it was 180, 182. I have to go look, 182. And then you also have the May highs, the 190 May highs. That's kind of like the next level. And then you start looking in the 260s and so back in February. I mean, call me crazy. I mean, I was saying it yesterday. It's a heck of a lot harder chasing this when the premiums start coming in and it really starts to go. Whether that's going to happen or not. I mean, if I was 100% certain, of course, I would be very, very aggressive on the call side. I'm waiting for some areas to break. So 199 probably is the next big area. If that breaks, I'll look for some more January strikes. I might even look out to April 26th. The other thing, I locked some more of my October calls in for over 200%. I'll just hold those. I'll hold the Januaries I'm holding. And I talk about this too. The worst kind of torture is holding a position that's far out that you just have to watch bid lists for. It's like it's a, I don't know if it's a lesson or it just creates post-trade stress disorder. I should phrase that, put that on a t-shirt. But hey, CGC, really like this one. At some point, it's going to break out. And that brings me IIPR too. I don't know why it was weak yesterday. To see names in the space up, Tilray, CGC up, and then you see IIPR kind of flat as a pancake. But consolidation still looking poised to break that 57.50. That breaks, I think it's off to the races. You have some gaps to fill. I think trades over 60 quickly. I'll look for some more strikes there. My October strike's still looking good. Serve disappointing yesterday. No news, no catalyst. I mean, it's, still has a huge 30% short interest. So you're going to have folks trying to pressure it. And usually it happens at the open. If you don't remember earnings, the after hour session on earnings, they pushed it to $8 and whatever cents because they know they can do that. They can create some uncertainty and just create a momentum of selling. So clear out limits, lots of little tricks they play. I still love this one. My October strike's still up 100%. I don't have too much of that left. I still have some September strikes. I'm going to wait for $12 before adding more calls. You know my thoughts here, 13.75. Still waiting for that area. Hopefully I'm not waiting too much longer. MDB, the one that got away, I probably won't talk about it too much next week, right? 214 close on Tuesday, all the way up to 320 and change yesterday. So, at 318, it was up $104 from the close, up 48% in 2 sessions. And then a lot of those calls, the premiums are expensive. So, I mean, if it was a different stock that had, strikes that weren't $60 out of the money for earnings that were $2, like the 270s, the gains would have been insane, almost like the United Healthcare trade a couple of weeks ago. I mean, the 270 as I think they were 160 at the close. Those were up $55. I think they hit. So, I mean, you do the math there. $1,600 and 55 grand in 2 days. That's not too bad. I my thought is my what I'm getting to here. Definitely got to look over the weekend, figure out how I could have played that better, rationalized it. Maybe I could have rolled some of the weeklies I was banking on profits into some later dated strikes. I don't know how many times I said on my rants after its earnings back in June, I'm like, great earnings, all the way up to 230, and then it sold off. And I'm like, the valuation, it just doesn't make sense to trade down here. And I think there's a lot of analysts who are still negative on the name, or at least on the software space. And now you see some of these names out. I mean, Snowflake yesterday, you have ESTC yesterday after the close. It seems like, ServiceNow was rallying too. I was looking at possibly get some spec puts only because of the weakness. And then in hindsight, I should have been, well, if there's a turnaround in the software space, that's a name that's going to take off. But anyway, moral of the story, I'm going to take a look at that weekend, try and figure out next time I see an undervalued play like this with the potential binary movement with catalyst with earnings, how am I going to play that better when there's high premiums? All right, so that's MDB. Just really quick too, Joby, more news this morning. Just they finalized their Blade acquisition. I mean, take a look at my trend lines here. I mean, I would love to see it come down and hit the support again. It was 14.95, but it's like maybe it looks like it's turning here right around 14 and change. So that might be back on watch. Well, it is always on watch, but closer for me adding some more strikes. Still have those Octobers. And then last but not least, MDB was the one that got away. Pool is the one that didn't get away, right? Unfortunately, down 4 straight days this week. Hopefully, I don't want to see 310 break, but if 310 can hold, I think it's at some points back over 320 into the 330s quick, especially if rates go down. It looked like it was gapping a little bit here in the pre-market. That's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.